John Wilkerson joining us now. John in Omaha, one of my favorite guys absolutely in the world. John, you having any fun yet?
Yeah, doing all right. First time ever 2-0 for Tennessee, so I give it a thumbs up right now.
Did you do anything Friday night? I mean, but in all seriousness, where does that game rank among your favorite games to call? I no kidding. I listened to the entire 30 minutes, I think, of your call at the end just by itself. You did just an incredible job, and you had an incredible a portrait to paint as well.
Well, one, appreciate that. And I think it jumps to the top of the list. Been thinking about it when you think of what the setting was, what was on the line, and the performance. I do believe that Friday's win over Florida State becomes Tennessee's biggest win in the history of the program.
Wow. I can't argue with that. Caleb?
I think you actually have a great point, John. That Tennessee baseball. So we're joined by John Wilkerson talking Tennessee baseball in the College World Series. And Tennessee's 2-0. One win away from the college baseball College World Series final. Excuse me. John, you're right. It's the first time ever they're 2-0 in the College World Series. It's the first time since 1951 that they've won multiple College World Series games, period. Is this the first time since you've been covering where when they were in the College World Series that it seemed like they had a legitimate chance to win it? Because I'm not 2 years ago we thought they were going to win it, but they didn't make the College World Series. But doesn't it seem like every time they're in the College World Series, up until then, it's always been, let's see what happens, have a little fun, take those jello shots at Omaha, and maybe they'll win a game or two. But is this the first? Am I getting the vibe right that that's how it usually is when Tennessee's in the College World Series?
Well, I'll tell you what, and this is actually the fourth time that they've won multiple games, because they were Final Four essentially in '95 and 2001. They won 2 games each trip, and then they lost to the eventual champions. They lost to Miami in '01. They lost to Cal State Fullerton in '95, and they finished runner-up to Oklahoma in 1951. And I'll say this, the 2005 team, I thought was one that was primed to come compete. You had Luke Hochaver. You also had Chase Headley. You could go on down the list, add a number of guys that you really liked the way that team was built. And unfortunately, that was the first team to go 2-Q, as they call it, 2 and barbecue. And then that's what Tennessee did in their return in 21. They won a game last year, which I thought was a big step forward. But yeah, as you were the number 1 seed in the tournament and you didn't get here in 22, I do think this is the best team that Tennessee has brought to Omaha at any point in time since '51, when Sid Hatfield, Herky Payne, and the guys were here.
I was such a big Herky guy back in the day.
You always were a Herky Payne guy.
Oh, yeah. I remember the jersey and all that. And, yeah, when the family traveled cross country to go see Herky. I remember all that. John, who are some key players? Because what I love about the College World Series is you got a couple of days off. If you win, you get some fresh arms, but guys change. The key players coming into the College World Series may be a little bit different than heading into the second phase of it, which starts Wednesday. Who are some guys specifically that you think need to step up in this second half?
Well, I'll first say it this way, that you got an all-time performance from Christian Moore in the first game, and one guy that has really stood out is Kavares Tears, because he had the 2-run home run that starts the rally against the Seminoles when you're down 9-4, and then it was his triple when you're down 3 that starts the bottom of the 9th, and then he follows that up against Carolina with the 3-run home run that opens the scoring, and then gives you another run batted in late with a double down the right field line to give you the 5-run lead. I've been really impressed with what the redshirt sophomore has done, and you can point to so many different guys that have already had a hand in their success. What I would point to is I'm really excited to see Xander Seacrest get the ball for Tennessee against either North Carolina or Florida State, whichever team survives today's elimination game. In the last month, he's been remarkable. He has been the Game 3 starter throughout the second half of the season, especially the SEC schedule. And yet I think it's his last 4 starts. He's got an earned run average under 1. He led the way against Tennessee, for Tennessee against South Carolina. They win that game against the Gamecocks, which leaves the door open for them to win the Eastern Division and the SEC regular season title as they did. He was then instrumental in 6 strong innings against Vanderbilt to allow you to survive your bracket in the SEC tournament. And he was so strong for the Vols as they closed out against Southern Miss in the Knoxville Regional, and then did not allow an earned run in the Super Regional final. So I'm anxious to see Xander Sechrist, to see if he can keep it going, because he has been masterful. And then it'll be interesting to also watch who's the first man up out of the bullpen, because as you point out, Dave, you've got a couple of days off. Just about everybody should be available, with the exception of, I think that A.J. Causey and Chris Stamos would probably be held in reserve for whether Tennessee plays an if necessary game on Thursday, or they play the first game of the championship series, which would be Saturday night.
So, John, I just wanted to have a little fun with you real quick. We're talking, this is Tennessee's best color. You're right, and I stand corrected. They won multiple games in 95 and 01, but it was after they lost the first game, so they were in the lower round losers bracket. I guess you call it losers bracket both times, and then was just 2. So it's definitely their best College World Series showing since 51. Well, later in the 1951 season, in the 1951 year, the football team went on to win a national championship.
I was kind of wondering if anybody was going to bring that up.
And is this a good now, to be fair, that football team also shared the national title in 1950, and had they done the voting at the end of the bowl games and not the end of the regular season, the 50 team would have been national champs. But
hey, John, this just in, Caleb knows enough history to make you physically ill.
Well, if anything, had they done the voting after the 51 season, Tennessee would not have been national champs. But anyways, bygones be bygones.
He reads Wikipedia for fun, John.
Is that a good omen for 2024 in football?
Well, it doesn't hurt. I mean, that's just it. There have been really these waves to where you could point to 1951. You could point to those years in the mid to late 90s, especially in 98. Now, Tennessee baseball was going through some peaks and valleys at that point in time. But sure, I do think there can be hand in hand, because I think the deeper we get into this build up to the season, there are more and more projections that have Tennessee as a potential college football playoff team. I mean, there are 12 seats at the table, so you would like to think you're going to have a shot. But with a first-year starter at quarterback, there's some proving they have to do. But I really think the pieces are in place. And I love the fact that Josh Heupel is so confident in his roster and how it's been constructed that he pulled so little from the portal. Tennessee lost more than it took out, and I think they've been very choosy as to who they've invited to join. So I think it's very similar to what Tony Vitello has done with the baseball program. You look for those that you know are going to have an instant impact. And I see a lot of similarities between Tony Vitello and Josh Heupel, with one, the way they operate as the head coach of their respective team, as well as how they go about building through recruiting and then going for those big puzzle pieces that could be maybe the finishing touch you need to win it all.
John, I want to, if I can steal you for a couple more minutes, I want to get your thoughts on the expectations for Tennessee football, because you and I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about that. How about lunch when you get back from Omaha? I would love to visit. Quality Tire Pro, the Eberle family, has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service, automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd, or online at qualitytirepros.com. Qualitytirepros.com. Tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports, Dave Hooker said hello. John, would Tennessee rather face North Carolina or Florida State?
One of the things I like about this team is they're going to be ready for which either side comes out. I'll say this. I do think there would be the greater concern with Florida State and its lineup, because they have crushed it the entire NCAA tournament. I think the Seminoles would provide the greater challenge. I don't think there's any question that there is a fire that burns for Florida State with that check swing and everything that has owned has had free rent in the free space in the middle of their thought process since Tennessee and them squared off on Friday. I do think that Tennessee probably matches up better with North Carolina because they did such a good job against that lineup. I do think North Carolina has better pitching, so it can be a case of pick your poison. I think that Carolina might have the better arms in reserve to face Tennessee in a game tomorrow. I think Florida State's bats would probably be the bigger challenge for Volunteers pitchers as they square off if they meet a second time. But I do think that the team with the better chance to win today is the Seminoles, and I would rather see North Carolina again, simply for the fact that I'd get to see Dave Nathan again.
Oh, there you go. Back in the day. So now we got a bunch of Johns. Back in the day, you guys had a couple of Daves. After me, Dave, you had Dave Nathan. Good guy.
Very much so.
Cool. Yeah. Please tell him I said hello and that I might be bugging him if they win today. So, John, have a great trip. There is a casino nearby that you should avoid, but I will say it's one of 2 casinos that I've ever left a winner. So I'll just give that in St. Louis, and both of them were with Mike Stoll. Maybe he was the lucky guy.
I was about to say, this was when you were the voice of the Thundercats, right?
The voice of the Thundercats. Yes, top of the resume right there. John Wilkerson, voice of the Diamond Vols, and does studio work for football, basketball, just as good of a guy as they come and as great of a radio guy as they come. You can hear him in the mornings on WNML in Knoxville from 6 to 9 a.m. Morning show treating you well. That's pretty early, John. I've been there, buddy.
It is. But also, I'm glad to say it is. So sure.
Awesome. John, have a blessed trip. Be safe. Tell Penny I said hello, and thank you very much.
Absolutely. Dave, appreciate it. Caleb, always good to see you.